Kanye West, he would be facing sex trafficking charges if it was anywhere else.
Gene Deal has exposed 5 major celebrities for their ties to Diddy, some of whom include Kanye, Jay-Z, and Usher. These reveals are so huge that they have led to many people questioning why 50 Cent removed them from the documentary in the first place. We will go across the celebrities and their alleged ties to Diddy one by one. The first celeb that Gene brought up in his latest interview was none other than Usher, talking about how he saw things at a young age that he shouldn't have been around. To Gene, that statement says a lot on its own.
There's probably a lot of celebrities that saw it. There's probably a lot of stuff. Look at Usher. What Usher say? I seen some things I shouldn't have been seeing at that age. What does that tell you? That he's seen some things, he was around some things when he was young that he shouldn't have been at a Diddy party. So that's going to show you that there's certain things that are happening that's going on that here it is, this kid was saying he shouldn't even seen it and been around it himself.
It suggests Usher was exposed to situations that weren't appropriate for someone his age, especially in those environments, and Gene Deal has revealed something truly shocking about the life Usher spent with Diddy. According to these claims, Diddy and Usher had a situation that eventually led to Usher being taken to the hospital.
I had a certain feeling, and I felt a certain way when Usher got on Shay Shay, and I don't mean to mention other people's platforms, but he got on Shay Shay and he mentioned how great and how good Puff taught him and everything. You know what I'm saying? About the business, right? I know, and people know, that was around that in that time that Puff and Usher did have a situation. And that situation led Usher to the hospital. Now I let Usher explain that to y'all. I let Usher tell that story. But how dare you say a man that groomed you, you gonna give him a pass? Bruh, you know I know.
Gene Deal said Usher himself has hinted at this before, even if he never went into full detail. Because of that, Gene questions why Usher would later defend or praise someone who allegedly mistreated him during his younger years.
Let me reframe you on something. Remember Usher? We was at the Swiss Hotel. Puff had Kim in the room. Had one of Keith Sweat's baby mothers in the big room outside the master bedroom. He came outside in his robe. She gave him a fellatio right there. His back was turned to me. She gave him a fellatio. You knocked on the door. I came and opened the door for you. Puff went in the room. You came in the room and kissed that girl dead in her mouth. Now I'm telling that because you taking up for somebody that you know and a lot of more people know didn't do you right when you was at Diddy camp.
Gene then recalled a specific memory from that time period to explain why this issue matters so much to him. He said he personally witnessed behavior that made it clear the environment around Diddy was not appropriate, especially for young artists who were still learning and trying to fit in. In fact, one major thing the documentary chose to censor and not talk about was Diddy doing something so horrific to Usher that it sent him to the hospital.
I heard about some music executive from the industry back in Harlem. You know, I heard it from some music executives back in Harlem. And I'm not going to speak on their name. They doing programs and everything like that. And they may be doing some programs. They may speak on it themselves. But I heard it from some music executives.
What did you hear?
Bro, you know how people be talking and we was around some people, something like that. And then some people might say, yo, I don't F with that dude. And at the time, I didn't even know who the F Usher was. You know what I'm saying? it was one of those type of situations. And when probably say, yo, man, I don't F with them niggas, man. I'm getting out that industry and everything like that. You know, Puff sent this little kid to the hospital. How he sent him to the hospital? Man, nigga was bleeding from the butt. And that's what was said. But I didn't even have a name for the kid at the time. Then you heard, and that's what happened.
He said this shows that certain things were happening, and some people were aware of it. But in the industry, staying quiet is common. Gene Deal then talked about what he personally witnessed when it came to Diddy and Jamie Foxx, and he made it clear he could only speak on what he saw with his own eyes. He said he first met Jamie Foxx on a tour bus during a trip he barely remembers now. At the time, the vibe seemed friendly, but nothing about it felt like a deep relationship. But then, he found out Jamie and Diddy were doing something truly horrific to women together.
They was on some friendship stuff, and it was a tour bus, and Puff was in the back, and there was a lot of girls in the front, and Jamie was just real touchy-feely, but Puff didn't come out the back. I don't know if Puff came out the back of the tour bus. You understand? And Jamie went back there for a minute or so, then he just came out, and he was all touchy-feely with the girls, and I'm looking at this dude like, wow, this dude kind of like touchy-feely with these girls, and he don't even know them. They know him because he's Jamie Foxx, but he didn't know them. So I don't really know their real relationship or how close they was. I didn't meet Jamie Foxx and really have a conversation with him until I was at his house.
What makes that entire statement worse is that Jamie Foxx has long been known to love partying with Diddy and participating in his freak-offs. In fact, he once talked about teaching Diddy how to party on a budget. Watch the FBI? Why would the FBI be with Puffy? That's a rather interesting admission that Jamie makes, especially when we look at it in hindsight. Could it be that Diddy was a known FBI asset back then? Let us know in the comments. The next celebrity that Gene exposed for seemingly being cut from the documentary was none other than Ja Rule. Gene said their story started in Atlanta. He and Diddy went into a specialty store while they were on the road. Apparently, it was his first time ever going into a place like that with Diddy, and he was surprised by how comfortable Diddy seemed there.
The first time I ever went to an exotic bookstore, with Puff. I didn't know he even did that, but we was in Atlanta. So when we went to the door, they gave him a brown paper bag. So I guess this is a place that he was used to and people knew him there. So when they gave him a brown paper bag, Puff was just going around the store, just picking items off the shelves and stuff like that, putting them in a brown paper bag. So then, I was behind him and no Diddy, but I was about 3 feet behind him, as he was putting stuff and putting it in his bag and stuff like that. So this one particular place that he was put up there, he had to reach up kind of high and get it. So he just started pulling things out. And he was pulling a lot of them off there. So I was like so I looked up and the thing said butt plugs. When he walking down the thing, said butt plugs. I said, hey, yo, just to mess with him. I said, hey, yo, what are you getting these for? And he said, can I do my shopping by myself? I said, yes, you can. And I waited up at the register for him, because they had the big counter up there. So when he came to the counter, I said, yo, I'm finna see what this motherfucker this mofo is putting in his bag, because I know he gonna have to take everything and put it on the counter so the dude could count it, right? My man, when he came there, he gave the dude a wad of hundreds like this. So he gave him a wad of 100 and just put it up there. The dude ain't even, you know what I'm saying? He ain't even want to know what was in the bag.
After that, they boarded a private jet and headed to North Carolina for a show. Ja Rule was traveling with them. During the flight, Gene said Diddy kept pushing Ja to go after Jay-Z musically.
And he was talking bad and talking crazy about Jay-Z, and how Ja was talking about if it wasn't for him, that Jay wouldn't be the artist he was. He got him started. He wrote certain things and stuff like that to put him out there, because, back in the day, nobody was even effing with Jay like that. So, but Puff was he was adamant about Ja going at Jay.
Did Diddy want to start a war with Jay-Z? It's an intriguing question. However, when they arrived at the hotel, they were staying in a large suite. People were eating, talking, and hanging out. Later on, Diddy, J. Rule, and a few women went into a room together. Before going in, Diddy gave Gene one clear instruction: do not let anyone else enter that room.
My girlfriend, they went to the room. I don't know what they were doing in there. I didn't give a shit. But Puff told me, Gene, do not let nobody come in this room. Don't let nobody come in this room. So, hour or so went by, whatever like that. Time went by. The doorbell rang. And it was this dude at the door saying that he was Ja's cousin. And I was like, he said, I'm here for Ja Rule. I said, who you? He said, I'm his cousin and everything like that. He said, I said, but yo, he busy right now. I'm telling the dude that he's busy. You know, the dude is talking about, yo, but I want to talk to him. I said, yo, bro, they don't want to be bothered. You know, I'm trying to, you know, tell this kid, yo, they don't want to be bothered, bro. You know what I'm saying? He said, yo, but that's my cousin. You know what I'm saying? I said, well, listen here, bro. They're in a room. They don't want to be bothered. You know, and you could see that there's only one room going back that way when you come to the room. You can see it's only one room. So then it's a piano, it's a couch, it's a room right there. And he talking about he was going through the room. I said, yo, bro, Jesus Christ had to come down here and take the breath out of my body before you go in that room. You understand? Next thing you know, I grabbed him and we started. It wasn't no wrestling thing like that because he couldn't handle it at the time. He could front and tell his friends because he didn't hit me up on Instagram. He could tell his friends all he want to, but that if Puff and Ja tell you the story, that nigga was upside the piano. You understand? So now, Ja and Puff run out. They butt the naked, bruh, and they was grabbing towels. You understand? They was grabbing towels. And then Puff was like, yo, Gene, what's going on? Ja was like, yo, he said, that's my cousin. I was like, yo, bruh, he tried to get in the room and I wasn't letting him get in the room, bruh. And then Puff looked at Ja like this, you know, what that looked like, he said. And then Ja said, you don't want to be up in that room because there was a whole lot of freaky shit going on.
Gene also added that Diddy was known for putting people into situations to influence their actions. That night, Gene believes Diddy was trying to push Ja toward a specific direction in his career. Will Ja Rule ever speak on what Diddy did to him? It remains to be seen. The next celebrity on Gene Deal's hit list was none other than Jay-Z. Gene explained why he believes Jay-Z and Diddy were closer than people want to admit, even though public statements say otherwise. According to Gene, what connected them wasn't friendship, but business. He claimed they were working toward the same goal, and that goal was to keep East Coast rap from rising again.
Jay-Z and Puff was given an assignment, and that was to destroy East Coast rap. And what I mean by that, and I know people gonna be like, yo, Gene is out of his mind and everything like that. Check this out, brother, is that New York rappers was getting 800 to 1.2 million, or some larger than that, and sign with labels back then. And they was getting a lot of money to make albums and records. When they had guys down south that these labels was paying $250,000, $300,000 on record deals, and these guys was bringing back platinum albums and everything like that. So what they had to do was they had to keep New York rappers down. That's one reason, other than the Irv Gotti shit that 50 was going through and the poison they was putting in about 50, he had to go elsewhere to California or with Jay and not with Dre and Eminem to get a deal. They did not want East Coast rappers to get big. They were suppressing all new artists that was coming out of New York. Jay and Diddy was doing that. That's why when I heard your story because I knew this for a long time. But when I heard Dame Dash that Jay wouldn't sign off on nothing, Jay wouldn't do this and Jay would that, because he couldn't let a Cameron blow up. He couldn't let an East Coast rapper like Beanie Siegel blow up. Because him and Diddy was giving that deal, we got to keep these East Coast rappers down. Because down south rappers, cash money.
Because of that, Gene believes the industry had a problem. Labels couldn't keep paying New York artists huge advances when Southern artists were making more money with smaller budgets. So instead of fixing the system, Gene claims they chose to hold New York artists back. Gene said this is one reason 50 Cent struggled early on. Between label politics and negative rumors being spread about him, 50 had to leave New York to get a real opportunity. That's how he ended up linking with people outside the East Coast instead of coming up through his own region. That's why he hates both Jay-Z and Diddy.
So they was placed to destroy the East Coast rap. And then along came a somebody. They was about to bring East Coast rap back. And there's nothing they could do about it. And this kid was finna put East Coast on the map just like Big did. And this is after 50. And that was Papa Smoke. Pop Smoke. That was Pop Smoke. Let me just tell you something, man. 2 weeks before Pop Smoke died, K Slay, who heard this shit from the industry, that know shit that happens in the industry, set Pop Smoke and his people down and gave them a jewel. He said, y'all gonna have to protect him with his life, with y'all life. Y'all gonna have to protect him with y'all life. Cause he know Pop Smoke was about to bring rap back to the East Coast. And what happened? Pop Smoke ended up dead. Now, I ain't trying to say that's some kind of conspiracy. Maybe some other shit was going on, or this, that, and the third. But brother, he had that conversation with K Slay 2 weeks before he was murdered. They didn't want rap to be back on the East Coast.
Gene ended by saying the industry never wanted East Coast rap to fully come back. And in his opinion, whenever it got close, something always stopped it. That's not proof, Gene said, but it's a pattern he's watched for years. Gene Deal says that from his point of view, Jay-Z and Diddy were much closer than people now want to admit. Jay-Z's lawyer later claimed they were not really friends, but Gene says the public moments tell a different story.
It was close enough that they wasn't playing basketball, they wasn't playing baseball, they wasn't playing football, and they wasn't playing hockey or soccer for Diddy to come on stage, pat him on his ass, and then make the statement to people in the world that can't nobody call me Sean but Jay-Z. Now, I don't know what kind of statement, and I can't say, I wish I could say half a homo, but I know I can't say it. But I don't know what kind of half a homo that is. And you trying to say that you're not close to somebody. You coming on stage, patting them on their ass, and then you making a broad statement to the public, can't nobody call me Sean but Sean Carter. And I heard Jay-Z said the same thing about them.
Gene also says their relationship went beyond business. He claims they joked with each other about their personal lives and even had matching white girlfriends.
But they were so close that they had matching white girls together. Because when they used to see each other, they used to say, yo, how your skinny white girl doing? He'd be like, yo, how your skinny white girl doing? So I guess that's a certain type of closeness.
I ain't know anything about that, man. I ain't know about, Jay touching his, ass. I gotta go see the video. I ain't hear about that.
Come on, man. Everybody's seen that. 50 even pointed it out. Excuse me. When they was in ATL on stage. Remember when 50 bum rushed the stage with them?
Yeah, I think I recall that.
When Puff came on stage, first thing he did was pat Jay-Z on that. But I forgot. That's your favorite rapper.
Hey, him and Pac is 1A, 1B. But what's your issue with Jay, man? I didn't know you had an issue with him.
I'm never a fan of somebody that I was gonna knock out. And then we was at the, it was me, him, Ashley Kushner, Puff and them. We was all at the Nets game together, and he didn't even remember none of it. And I don't expect him to remember, but I remembered. You understand? And he told Puff, he said, yo, Puff, yo, I heard about that Gene right there. That Gene got a mean left. Oh, he said, that Gene a knock a out. Then he gonna come up to me and say, man, you look like, man, you a tear ass up. And I said to himself, I said, yo, no Diddy. Pause, whatever. I said, he don't even remember. I was about to knock him the F out. He didn't even remember. He said to me to Laura. That's how these guys are, man.
Gene explains that many industry figures move through life in a bubble. They create situations, stir things up, and then forget about it because they are living on a different level from everyone else. He says that mindset was common back then, and it could soon catch up to them. And now, for perhaps the biggest name of all, Kanye West. Gene has just blown open the lid on how before Diddy's arrest, Kanye was publicly criticizing Diddy, calling him out and saying harsh things about him on interviews. Now, suddenly, Kanye is back around him, even wearing clothing in the past that showed public support. Gene says this is how the industry works sometimes, with people switching sides when it benefits them. Maybe Kanye is scared he's next. Gene then explains what Jane described about a trip to Las Vegas. She said she was invited by Kanye and his wife, and the group went out to shows and dinner. And what happened next was horrifying. What stood out most to Gene was the timing. One day, Kanye's name or description comes up in court, and the next day he is physically there supporting Diddy. To Gene, that looked calculated. Over time, as everyone got richer and more powerful, relationships fell apart, and Kanye began lashing out at people he felt turned on him. So it seems Kanye's court appearance earlier this year was more about show than substance. You really have to wonder whether having Kanye there actually helps Diddy at all, especially given Kanye's past controversial statements. Why do you think 50 Cent chose not to talk about these celebrities? Let us know in the comments.